What's up, y'all? We're going to do a video on the 50 series LSDA brand entry residential grade lever handles. In my last LSDA video, somebody asked me about these and asked what I thought about them, and I realized that I've never done a video on them. I don't sell too many of these. You can tell because this one's in an old blister pack. I don't know if they are still packaged like this today. I have not ordered one of these in quite a while. But I don't think the design has changed, so what I'm going to talk about should be the same with the current style, whatever generation of them. So let's take a look at them. Okay, to get all the Q&A part of it out of the way, check with your IDN distributor, locksmith distributor, or your local locksmith if you're interested in these, of course. But we will show, what is here is a full page of different styles and finish options and keyway options of the residential levers. However, don't take this to think that they actually stock all of this. This is pretty much just all their part numbers. Some places may stock more of one style than another. However, this is what is available. It may not be immediately available, or it may not be available at all. I have found that the lion, the LY shape, which is the most common lever handle shape, which is this one that we're going to be looking at, is kind of the most common across the board between all brands, whether it be Slag or Dexter Slag, any of the brands. They all have this kind of classic wave shape, and that's their lion brand. And it is available in nickel, bright brass, and looks like dark bronze, which is what we're looking at today, in Quickset Weiser and Slag. Now, I have mentioned I usually only stock Weiser keyway stuff instead of stocking Quickset and Weiser, because you can key up Quickset to Weiser keyway, but you can't key Weiser to Quickset keyway. So almost always I would be buying the Weiser. However, when you see the finish options here, MB is Millennium Brass. That's their long-lasting bright brass. If you're going to be putting on passage or privacies, you also need to take that into account. So while you could maybe get a Huron design, like Huron, in Millennium Brass, that means you may not be able to get that same thing in passage or privacy if you're doing a whole house. So take that into account. It's a little bit difficult to put together what you need. However, if you're just needing, for an office and they want to switch out their cheap door knobs with cheap lever handles, this is a good option. I have done this years and years ago. This batch is from then, and I sold about 30, not even knowing about the locks really. So I was kind of concerned when I was putting them on the doors, and we're going to take a look at why, because when I first took one apart to put it on the door, it kind of surprised me. So I do want to show you that there is a little unique quirk to these. Up here I've got, again, this is old yellowy blister pack. I'm probably going to throw this blister pack away. However, it does protect them really well. Now, these are just standard tubular lever handles. Tubular being, with the shaft that goes through the latch. Standard screws, standard strike plate, no big deal about that. One thing that's really nice about these is this spring cage right here. When you turn, that's a spring cage. This pretty much completely encloses it except for one little area. So that helps keep that spring kind of in check. The only qualm I have, and this is across many manufacturers, is see these little legs that this spring sits on? That can wear down and the spring can pop off. Since this extends out here, I'd almost like that to be a little bit longer, but that's, a manufacturing thing, nothing that can be done about that. These are and have always been made in their Taiwan plant. A little bit interesting thing about these, now I will point out that, we'll go ahead and point out now, I'll point it out on the other one, but they are reversible, so with this particular shape, and I see these on doors like this all the time. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. That's upside down. This is right side up. The hoop's supposed to go hoopy like that. And I like that. And Slag has a version of this. A lot of brands have this kind of classic wave lever handle shape. And nowadays they are almost always all flippable or reversible. And we'll go ahead and do that. I'll show you that on the entrance function because there is another little tweak to these that I wanted to talk about. When you're installing them, this one is a Slag Keyway. Let's go ahead and move these yellowed boxes out of the way. So with lever handles, the Keyway, except for I think in Smart Key, one of the brands, but most of them are going to be a horizontal. And you would put the key in, turn it one way or turn it the other way. And normally it turns a little flip turn. On most common lever handles, you have a turn button. However, this one pushes in to lock, and when you turn the handle, it supposedly pops open. I'm not sure about that. We're going to put it all together and see, but when we take it apart, we do have kind of a little warning label here, and let's look at it, and we see the driver bar needs to be in the horizontal position with the button down. So when you're putting it on the door, this is the driver bar. It goes through the latch like so. And it needs to be in the horizontal position with the button pushed in. And when you push this button in, I'm going to take a flashlight and kind of shine down that so you can see. See that slot down in the very bottom of there? So that's where the driver bar goes. If we assemble it on the door, now I will point out another thing that's kind of unusual about these. These kind of function like a cylindrical lock would, where you poke this. These are hidden screws, so you can't see the screws on the inside. This always gets people when they're trying to DIY, take off or put on these, but this comes apart like that, and the screws go through your two holes, and this cap would go over. Now when you take that off, there is this, what seems to be this really weak spring right here on the button, and that's kind of I think a button assist spring. And what's unique about this whole thing is, remember the warning, we got to push our button in and put that on, because they don't want, if this is in the vertical position and you sit there and jab, it's going to make that button you could break the button. So what's unusual about this is when you turn the key one way, it locks it. So see, it just popped out. So when we hold it, we can open the door, push it in. I gotta hold it just right to do this. So, okay, so it's locked on the outside. And when we turn it the other way, it unlocks, and then turn it back. So what happened, you may not have been able to see it, just watch. Right there, okay? Turning the key one way and another way. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock. So that is a little bit unusual for a push button style lock. When you can do that when you have the turn button, but on most lever handles that use a push button on the inside, say a grade 2, like any grade 2 lock, I don't have one sitting out here, but when you push the button in, you turn the key, the button will pop out. You cannot relock it by using the key. You have to physically reach around and push the button. Now that's common on almost all styles of push-in button interior like that. So it's a little bit unusual. It's a lot of bit unusual for you to be able to lock and unlock the door with the key when you have a push button like that. Instead of it just springing it out, it kind of will draw it back in as well. And like I said, I put about 30 of these on doors. It's been close to about 8 years now, and I've not had any callbacks on them, knock on wood. To get the cylinder out, you do not need the key in there. It just has to be in the unlocked position, so you do not have to pick it or have the key to get it apart. You would just push the retainer. That retainer will not push in, by the way, if it's locked, in case you're saying, hey, somebody could just walk up to your door. On the whole retainer deal, it always has to be unlocked for those that are able to do this. You can't do it to a locked door. So what we were talking about earlier, the handing. So if it's handed like this right now, this would go on a left-hand door. In other words, it would be on this side. The hinges would be over here. if you're standing outside. That way the swoop is like this. However, if you move it over here to a right-hand door, you'd flip it over and it's upside down. So what you do in that case is you pull the outside off and then just take your inside handle, and your inside handle becomes your outside handle. Take your cylinder, put it in, and what were we doing? We're doing this side. There we go. And put it back in, and there we go. It reverses it just like that. Your inside handle would go in there. So this style is completely reversible. I do want to go ahead and take a look at the cylinder while we're at it. Now, a lot of you know that a lot of current locks have really beveled chambers, and again, I have not ordered these in a while, so offhand I don't know for sure whether they are still the same style of cylinder. I would guess that they are, but I may be wrong. However, before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and pause it so that I can straighten it up real quick, and then we're going to look at the inside of the cylinder. Other than that, the latch is, of course, adjustable for 2 3/8, 2 3/4, just by simply pulling it. It's your standard tubular grade 3 latch. I mean, what else can be said? It's a less expensive door lever handle, and there's our little specs on it. Fits all doors, handleable, automatic unlocking for easy exit, so you can always get out when it's locked. No exposed screws, so hopefully nobody will be coming along and taking it off. So inside, and then when you turn that, I believe it should unlock it. Let's just see for sure before we pause it. Okay, we need to put this in the horizontal position and push in. All right, and then we're going to give this a go. So we are in the locked position, right? Yep. Walk up to the door and it pops out, unlocks the outside. So it does unlock once you do it. Now, I will also note before we switch over to the cylinder, I've had this passage version on my personal back door for about 4.5, 5 years now, and it's held up great. And we use it, it's our dog door, so take that into account. It's held up really well. I've been surprised with it. I've been impressed with it. So let's take a look at the cylinder real quick. Okay, again, so just poke our retainer in the unlocked position, drop our cylinder out, take our clip off, and we will see that it's got this kind of press-on cap again, which is pretty common. You do not need to remove that cap. Almost never nowadays do you have locks where you have to remove the cap. There is a old Slag, and I think what's the other name brand, Easy Set, I believe it was, where you had to. Also, you do see a pretty good gap right there. That is not that big of a deal with these. And we'll pull it off and get a zoom in to the camera there and look at the core. Now again, I don't know if this is still SOP, standard operating procedure, but we can see this one is not chamfered, which is very, very common. Even in higher end residential locks, they chamfer the plugs pretty heavily. And if I were to take a guess, I would say the new gen is just like this, because LSDA doesn't really follow patterns like that. They just, if something's been working, they keep doing it and never really change, no matter how much you beg, no matter how much you plead with them about it. And then the top is just standard pins, LSDA. No LSDA locks are ever going to have security pins in them. That's just folly to think that. Dead bolts or anything. So with LSDA, it is called Locksmith Dealers of America. So as a locksmith, you would know how to upgrade the cylinder if you wanted to. So that is it. If you have any questions or comments on the 50 series, if you're interested in ordering and you're a locksmith, of course, contact your local IDN branch. If you have any questions that I can answer, as always, leave them in the comment section. Thanks for watching, y'all. Have a great day.